All right. So we're going to be continue to build upon OOP, and object-oriented programming isn't going to be going away anytime soon. So we're going to continue utilizing OOP this week up until the assessment. So with this challenge, app users 1, again, there's multiple app user challenges. Unfortunately, app users 2 and 3 don't build upon one another as far as like the code for app users 1 doesn't exist in app users 2. So this is a total application built kind of how you want it to be built. So let's zoom in. There we go. So app users 1, let's go ahead and fork that over to Tom Preet. It's too. I'm gonna clone that down. So I'm in Tom Preet app users 1. I copied that over, or copied the repo. I'm in desktop CP Oscar challenges. I list all the challenges out. I don't see app users 1 in here, so I can git clone, zoom in. There we go. And link that there. All right. So where did app users 1? App users 1 is right there. Let's go ahead and cd into app users 1. So I'm listed in here. So I've got my README and users.py file. Now I'm going to open this up into a new VS Code window by doing code space -r space period. Really reloads VS Code. And now I've got my little app user file here. So I can write my user class here. So it says you have the next big thing on the interwebs, but a thing isn't anything without users. In your application, users can sign up with all kinds of valuable personal information like name, email address, driver's license number, you name it. So write a users class that can handle your growing application's need, and then create a few users. So I'm just going to copy this since this is not that big of much text, and paste that in here. All right. So how do I declare or create a new class or declare a class?
Just type in class and then
class and then user. So here's my user class, and there we go. And it's in the requirements. It says we can sign up with valuable personal information like name, email address, driver's license number, you name it. So as a user, when a user first signs up, they have to type in their name, email address, driver's license number, and kind of whatever we want to include. So how do I initialize a new user using a name, email address, and driver's license number?
You have to do the init.
All right, def dunder init. And Tim, what does the init method do?
Does that initiate I guess the variables are you about to use?
I wouldn't say when does it execute?
When you call the function or the class method.
Okay, yep, exactly. License. Is that how you spell license? Is this spelled wrong up here?
No, you've got it.
All right, cool. And self.name equals name, self.email address equals email address. And what is the self.name, self.email address? What kind of variables are those?
An instance variable.
And what is so unique about an instance variable?
It only. So go ahead.
I was just going to say it's unique for each like class object.
So it's unique to an instance of user, like each individual user. What else is, so yep, that is correct. What else is unique about the instance variables?
You're going to overwrite a class variable or override a class variable of the same name.
So you can override class variables. So if I had like a separate class variable up here, name equals something like Tom, I can override that by creating an instance variable. What else is unique about them? Where do I have access to instance variables?
Can you use them in other classes?
I'm sorry?
They can use them in other classes.
What do you mean by you can use them in other classes?
If you create another class, then you can call it from there to the init. So you can use them anywhere else, almost like a global variable.
Okay, but they're not necessarily, but they're all different though. Like the value of each instance variable is different. So I don't know if that's 100%. So it's not like I wouldn't say it's like when you say it's like a global variable, what do you mean? So if I created like user 1 equals user Tom, what was it? Email.com and driver's license number.
You can access them throughout the class.
Yep, that's kind of what I was looking for. So I can access these anywhere within the class. So if I had another method, such as like print info, I can access these self.name, like return. I can access this variable in any method within the class. Whereas if this was just a normal variable, like a local variable, I only have access to this name in the scope of the init method. I don't have access to this name variable outside of the scope of the init method. So I don't have access to it in print info. Where the self keyword, I have access to that variable everywhere. So yeah. All right. So I created a couple of users, or I've got a class user that initializes with name, email address, driver's license. I don't necessarily want to initialize it with a driver's. Well, if I wanted to actually initialize it with a driver's license or an email address, no, this works. I'll just come up with. So if I wanted to automatically assign an email address, I can do like fstring name at gmail.com. So this just takes in the name, so it automatically creates an email address for this user. It can do that. In fact, I'm just going to do that. Well, no, I guess I'll keep the email address in there. What other methods maybe do we want on here? What, for those of you who completed this challenge, what methods did you have on here?
You do like add user, delete user, list out all users.
Okay, you can list up. Would that be in? Okay, so I can like add a user. Def add user. What would that look like? So self, would that be a instance variable or a class variable? Or class, I'm sorry, instance method or class method?
That'd be a class method.
Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and just class method. What is this class method? What is this called? Anybody remember?
Decorator.
A decorator. And what does this class method allow us to do? Like
do things by just invoking capital U user dot the class method, and then stuff happens. It's not to self. It's like a special function inside user. I ended up basically doing this in a different class just because I didn't think user would have add user. You would add user to something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
So that would basically just like kind of apply specifically to user itself as the base class if you wanted to make like a child after the fact that built on user.
Yeah, like in school interface when you have like the add objects thing where it would like load in all the stuff out of a CSV, that to my mind made sense as like a class object inside of like school or inside of a student and staff.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
the same thing. I had like an object class method that would just read in all the objects from a CSV, and then I made an app class, and that's where I had all my like add user, delete user, list user stuff.
Okay,
I
so
did the
that's
same.
okay, cool. So you guys had like a command line interface where you can add users and stuff like that, kind of similar to school
Yeah.
interface. Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty
Awesome.
similar to school for the beginning, at least, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to reuse the read and write to a file code inside of user. I'd want that separately.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I'm just so interface.
So is the app user application supposed to be a CRUD application like in Ruby on Rails? That's kind of what it seems like based on what you're asking or what's shown in the
That's up to like that's up to you. Like there isn't a definitive. Again, there isn't a specific definitive requirements for this specific challenge, but I see people kind of like exploring like, oh, you know what, maybe I want to add a user, so I'm going to create a separate app interface or interface class where I can add users to it. And hell, since I already learned CSVs, I'm going to utilize CSVs because this is kind of like allowing you to kind of imagine what kind of whatever you want to build at this point. But we will be expanding on this. There's going to be users, there's going to be posts that users can do. So if you think about like a blog, so you might have a post class, and a user is allowed to create posts, and then in subsequent like other challenge, I think app interface 3, I think then you're gonna have like a premium user and a free user. So like a paid versus free subscription service. So you might have to, create a new user class, like a free user class or a premium user class, and inherit attributes from a user class. So, but yeah, I'm just asking you all questions just to see what else you all kind of built. But at the end of the day, it looks like this is kind of all we really need to do. Now, if you went and created like an interface, kind of similar to school interface, awesome. And if you utilize a CSV to store data, great. That means you just have more practice for the assessment. So there you go. But yeah, I was just curious as to what other people put down there. Does anybody have any questions about this challenge? It seemed pretty easy, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Tom, can we just go over like the CSV file stuff? Because I was having kind of a tough time doing that in my user one.
Okay, I'm just gonna create a user CSV, CSV. I'm gonna just say name, what was it? Email, address, and what was it? Driver's license. Okay, something like that. And we can just say, I don't know if it's Tom at email.com. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Does this have to be a string?
Yeah, it would error out if I try to do it as just like straight characters without quotes on.
Same with the headers probably as well.
Actually, no. If you do put them in quotes, it would again cause like the dict writer and reader to like error out. I spent way too long screwing with this stuff.
All right. Well, cool. All right. So let's just do that for right now. All right. So we've got that. I'm gonna from user import user. So I'm from the user.py file, I'm importing the user class. And just in here, I'm just gonna, just for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna create a class method that prints out def get all users. And this is a class method. And up here, so yeah, just, all right. So, and this is just going to read from this user CSV, create a new user, throw it into an array, and have it display like an array of users. Speaking of that, I might as well add another one. All right. Cool. All right, so the first thing I'll need to do is import CSV library. What else can I do? Import OS. Is that right? And I don't remember. I remember there was like some OS path thing that I need to do in order to get the to the absolute path of. Does anybody remember what school interface? Right here, perfect. So I'm just going to look for that CSV in the school interface. Where does it go? Load data. So I'm just going to copy this over. So import OS path directory name instead of data.students. I'm just going to go to /users. Hopefully that makes sense. And then down here, I honestly don't remember what the CSV syntax is. I think it's like with open. Is it path? Is that all it is? As user file.
You also need a flag like with open path, comma, I think quote W.
Oh, so yeah, because I'm gonna read, right? W would be right.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
read is default, so you actually
So-
wouldn't need that.
If I don't have this flag, it defaults to read. So, but I'm gonna keep it as read. Just I'm just gonna try to get used to always throwing a flag there. All right, so I've got that. User file equals, what is the dict reader? Just looking. Is it csv.dict reader? Do I pass anything in here? Does anybody remember?
The file, so the users underscore file.
Oh, so okay, this is gonna be wrong. I'm just gonna say users. I'm just gonna print users right now because I don't know what that is. Whoop. All right, so in my interface here, I'm just gonna say user dot get all users and invoke that.
In your CSV file, you actually do not want the quotes.
I don't want the quotes.
Right, no
All right.
quotes.
All right, well, I'm gonna run this and just kind of see what happens, and if I get errors, there we go, I get an error. So it looks like, do I even need that part? I don't even know. All right, cool. I got a dict reader object. So I'm not getting errors for it.
No, they're just part of the string.
Row and users. Let's print row. Cool. So I've got that. Right in JavaScript, users array or users list. And in here, I'll create users list dot append. I'm going to create a brand new user. I'm going to do row. I guess I'm not going to name that row. I'm going to actually name that a user because I want it to be a little more descriptive. User name, user email address, and user, is it driver? Not driver's license. Should be driver's license. I think that's it. And at the very end of that loop, I can return users list. I'm just kind of doing this on the fly right now. I think that might work. So what I did, just kind of go back. I created a class method that allows me to call the get all users method without actually having to initialize a new user instance. So that allows me over here on interface.py to just call user.getAllUsers. And I imported the CSV library and the SOS library. I'm creating an absolute path to my users.csv file. The reason why I'm doing this is just in case I move my users.csv file into another directory or anything like that, this will fix that with it. So I don't have to just hard code the path down here. So on line 15, I'm opening the users.csv file as a reader. But if I didn't include this, it would just default to reader. And I'm opening it as users file. I'm declaring a new variable called users, which is I'm using CSV's dict reader, which returns almost like a Python object, very similar, that allows me to access like key value pairs. And I'm passing that users file in. I'm creating a users list because I want to create a list of users from the user CSV file. And I'm looping through the users. So for each user, I want to append, well, first I'll say I'm creating a brand new instance of a user right here, and simultaneously I'm appending that to the users list. So right here, I can also do this on a separate line. New user equals just right there, and then just appending that user or new user. Same thing, maybe a little bit more readable. So I'm creating a new user here by passing in each user's name, email address, and driver's license, applying that to a new user. So this new user is an instance of a user from my user CSV, and I'm appending that new user to the users list. Once it loops through everything, I return that users list. So if everything worked, what happened? Email address. So if I print user, just comment that out. Happened.
Yeah, it looks like for your name on that CSV, it's making like a string within a string.
A name. Oh. Yeah, so
I think on the CSV file, you're gonna have to take off the, yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right, I'm just gonna get rid of these spaces too. Shouldn't matter. CSV, but just to keep things. So let's clear that. All right, that looks a lot better right there. All right, so if everything worked correctly, I should get, so I guess I can print this. There we got user objects. Each user represents a user in here. So that's a quick review of CSVs reading from a CSV file. And again, we're going to be building upon this in today's challenges as well. Any questions about this simple challenge as far as like creating a new user, assigning 3 instance variables?
I think I just got way too far ahead of myself.
Were you like, go ahead.
I have trouble remembering the commands on line 3 and 4.
These ones?
Yeah.
As far as like what the purpose of them are, or just including them?
I get that line 4 is appending it to the current path. It seems like a lot of words to append it. And I guess line 3 is to locate where the current file is in the file structure.
Exactly. Exactly. And like, I don't think this is necessarily necessary. If you also included like users, the reason why we do this is just in case the users are in a different directory and you have to find like the absolute path to that directory of the CSV. But in theory, I can also just type in users, I think here or something like that. Because
Are we supposed to be memorizing things, or is it still reading documentation and then writing code? That's
always be reading documentation, writing code.
So then there's no reason to memorize. Just know that you want to import and go look for it and copy and paste it and modify it to your needs, right?
Yep. Just like I did when I went over here and copy and paste that, and then I adjusted the path.
Yeah, I'll usually kind of refer to like some previous challenges that kind of use like CSVs if I need that specific syntax to just kind of map it out and copy and paste it so I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing.
As long as you like kind of understand what's actually happening, like why we need it, as well as what this is actually doing, that's good. And then you can, grab that code from previous challenges or from the documentation. All right. So